Hi and welcome to the latest ancient Egypt news from the first weeks of October. Mollusc shells unearthed during excavations at the Saqqara necropolis are offering new insights into the customs and daily life of the region's ancient inhabitants. Located 40 kilometers southwest of Cairo, Saqqara was one of the most important cemeteries of Memphis and served as the burial site for Egyptian royalty and dignitaries. Sarad Zdunek, a doctoral researcher at the University of Warsaw and specialist in archaeomalacology, explained the importance of finding mollusk shells. Shells can be a valuable source of information because they had many uses. They were often used as decorative objects in jewelry and ornaments, as well as functional uses for containers such as oils, perfumes, and bowls for writing ink. According to Zdunek, shells also held a religious or sentimental value for the afterlife, as they were placed in graves with the deceased. Cowrie shells, for example, resemble female reproductive organs, so in ancient society they were seen as amulets for new mothers and pregnant women. Beyond their ritual significance, shells were also incorporated into the materials used in construction, ground and mixed with straw to strengthen mud brick structures. Because molluscs are highly sensitive to changes in water conditions, their remains found in ancient structures serve as proxy data, offering archaeologists valuable insights into past climate conditions. Some shells, freshly pulled from the water, naturally have different colors and patterns, so we can assume that the Egyptians also collected colorful shells and kept them. Unfortunately, many shells lose their color and luster over time. On the other hand, some are naturally white and may have been collected precisely for this reason, added Zdunek. In a vote that redrew expectations inside UNESCO's headquarters, Khaled El-Enany won the race to lead the United Nations Cultural Agency by an extraordinary margin of 55 votes to 2. The scale of the result ended weeks of speculation and validated a confident refrain from inside his campaign. It would not be a tight race. Diplomats who filed out of the executive board chamber used words like emphatic and historic. For Egypt, the moment carries a double resonance. An Egyptologist who rose from guiding visitors among temples to stewarding national culture as minister is now entrusted with the world's most visible platform for education, science, culture and communication. For the Arab world and Africa, the results place a voice from the global south at the center of an institution that shapes how nations teach, preserve and share their heritage. El-Enany stepped to the microphone and, in English, offered a simple line that cut through the applause. "I stand before you with humility and gratitude." Before that, he thanked his country in Arabic. The words were spare, almost understated, the tone consistent with a campaign built less on spectacle than on long miles and careful listening. He pledged to serve all member states and has spoken repeatedly in recent months about modernizing and depoliticizing UNESCO, emphasizing transparency, early reforms and wider consultation in his first 100 days. The road to this outcome narrowed decisively when the race, once a three-way contest, turned into a head-to-head. Mexico's Gabriela Ramos withdrew in late August, leaving El-Enany opposite Fermin Eduard Matoko of the Republic of Congo, a veteran insider. The contrast sharpened the choice. Delegations could back an institutional steward or an outsider with ministerial experience who promised to push the agency closer to classrooms, museums, field sites and newsrooms. The executive board chose the latter by a margin that surprised even seasoned observers. The tally, confirmed by wire services and European media, now moves to a final customary appointment by UNESCO's full membership next month. Cairo reacted quickly. Messages of congratulations from officials were joined by quieter notes from curators and conservators, the archaeologists who spend their days coaxing inscriptions from stone, the tour guides who recite history to the world. The pride was unmistakable, but so was a certain sobriety about what comes next. Winning the executive board is a mandate. Governing UNESCO is an examination that begins immediately. The near-term challenges are concrete. The agency's machinery is respected, but it's also slow. Departments can be siloed, processes accrete, budgets are tight, and will be tighter if announced funding withdrawals take effect, which would widen a forecast gap in the years ahead. A Director General who campaigned on responsiveness and delivery will be judged on whether he can move programs at the speed of events without unbalancing the institution's delicate regional equities. He'll need to appoint a senior team that blends reform energy with institutional memory, and he will have to win trust from staff who have heard reform promises before. On the outside, the pressures are sharper still. Heritage sites in conflict zones are at risk from shelling, looting and illicit trade. Climate change is degrading landscapes faster than conservation science can stabilize them. Education systems in fragile settings are strained by displacement and misinformation. UNESCO's media and information brief is now entangled with the rapid spread of AI, a domain that demands standards and guardrails even as it resists them. The restitution debate, once a specialist question, is now a matter of public politics, diplomacy and law in multiple capitals. Each file pulls the agency into the crosswinds of national pride and historical grievance. There's also the question of credibility. In recent years, UNESCO has been lauded for its lists and communiques, yet criticised for how slowly these gestures translate into material change. El-Enany ran on a slogan, UNESCO for the people, that will now be measured in very practical terms. Do classrooms gain resources and teachers the training they need? Do museums and sites receive support that can be counted in scaffolds and conserved facades, not just press releases? Do journalists and students in low-income countries feel the agency in their work or only see its logo? Those are not abstract tests, they are the daily realities by which his tenure will be judged. Politics inevitably will test him as well. One reason this victory resonates is that it promises a leader fluent in the language of heritage, who is not a creature of the Paris Secretariat. Another is that it reflects a coalition that stretched from the Arab League and African Union through European and Latin American capitals. Keeping that coalition together when priorities diverge will require the same patient diplomacy that built it. The Executive Board's vote confers legitimacy. It also raises the bar for delivery. In the coming weeks, El-Enany must signal early what modernisation means, how he will handle budget strain, how he plans to insulate technical work from political drag, and where UNESCO will concentrate its first practical wins. For Egypt, this is a milestone. For UNESCO, it's a wager on a style of leadership that promises fewer declarations and more outcomes. The formal appointment by the General Conference remains a step ahead, but today's vote sends as clear a signal as the system can send. Khaled El-Enany has the mandate. What he builds with it will decide whether this day is remembered as a turning point or just a bright interlude. Excavations in the city of Saqqara in southwestern Turkey have uncovered ancient Egyptian imagery in a Roman-era bathhouse. Saqqara emerged as the foremost urban centre of Pisidia, earning special distinction under Emperor Hadrian, who conferred upon it the prestigious title of First City of the Province. Excavations of the bathhouse have revealed a finely engraved marble panel that dates from the reign of Emperor Augustus. The panel depicts religious imagery such as the Sphinx god Tutu on the lintel of a doorway, symbolic of guardianship and protection. Flanking the doorway are two human figures wearing the crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt, symbolizing Tutu's dominion over all of Egypt. Also on the panel are several ancient Egyptian deities, including Horus and Sobek. The panel was discovered not in a temple or a shrine, but in the northern Frigidarium, the cold room of a bathhouse first excavated in 2004. According to experts, the discovery is the first known instance of ancient Egyptian iconography outside of Egypt used solely for ornamental purposes. Excavation Director and Bilkent University Archaeology Department Head, Professor Peter Taluan, told the state-run Anadolu agency no other example of this iconography is known outside Egypt. The Saqqarasians did not worship Egyptian gods, they only used them for decorative purposes. A closer analysis of the panel has determined that the marble was originally sourced from a region over 200 kilometers from Saqqara. Researchers have completed the most detailed geoarchaeological survey to date of the Karnak temple complex in Luxor, one of the largest religious sites of the ancient world and a UNESCO World Heritage Landmark that attracts millions of visitors each year. The new study, published recently in the journal Antiquity, sheds fresh light on when the temple was first inhabited, how the Nile's shifting channels shaped its growth over 3 millennia, and why its location may have held deep symbolic meaning in ancient Egyptian belief. This research provides unprecedented insight into the evolution of Karnak Temple, from a small island to one of the defining monuments of ancient Egypt, said Ben Pennington, lead author and visiting fellow in geoarchaeology at the University of Southampton. Karnak now stands about 500 metres east of the modern River Nile in Thebes, the spiritual heart of ancient Egypt. An international team led by Angus Graham of Uppsala University in Sweden, alongside scholars from Southampton, collected 61 sediment cores in and around the site and analysed tens of thousands of pottery fragments to date the layers of human occupation. The findings show that before around 2520 BCE, the area was frequently inundated by fast-flowing Nile waters, making permanent settlement unlikely. This places the beginning of occupation during the Old Kingdom. Pottery fragments confirm this, with the earliest examples dating roughly between 2305 and 1980 BCE. The age of Karnak Temple has been hotly debated, said co-author Christian Strutt. Our evidence now provides a firm time frame for its earliest occupation and construction. The study reveals that the land on which Karnak stands formed as two river channels to the east and west, gradually eroded their beds, leaving a higher mound, effectively an island, on the site's eastern and southeastern side. Over the centuries, as these channels migrated apart, they created new ground that allowed the temple to expand. The team also confirmed that the long-debated Eastern Nile Channel not only existed, but may have been larger than the Western one, which has traditionally received more attention. The river channels dictated where the temple could grow, the authors noted, adding that ancient builders may have deliberately altered the landscape by dumping desert sand into channels to reclaim land for construction. This distinctive setting appears to echo ancient Egyptian creation myths, describing the emergence of the creator god as high ground rising from the primeval waters. The researchers suggest Theban elites may have chosen the site precisely to evoke that sacred symbolism. The team now plans to extend its geoarchaeological work across the wider Luxor floodplain to better understand how the Nile shaped one of Egypt's most enduring religious landscapes. And that's it for this week. This news podcast is brought to you by Ted Laux and GNT Tours. Ancient Egypt News is now rated in the top 5 Egypt history podcasts, according to feedspot.com. Follow us on social media and now on YouTube. Thanks for listening to this episode. Please feel free to comment and share. Until next time, thanks again. Cheers. Bye-bye.